so we're doing a Music and Coffee with Chelsea Beth. We have the band Cactus Cat here, and we are drinking coffee porter beer from Max Line Brewing in Fort Collins, purchased at what is it called? Max Liquor. Max Liquor on Mulberry. Yeah. So they're really awesome and chose this beer for the band to drink today. So
coffee and
yeah, cheers to Max Brewing.
Hey.
Cheers to Cactus Cat.
Cheers to Chelsea.
Yeah, and happy birthday to Aaron's wife Allie today. Also.
Yeah, happy birthday. Yeah. It is her birthday. She's not here right now, but
she's in spirit. She's here in spirit. So yeah, we just kind of want to know a little bit more about you all as a band. You've been playing shows the last, how long, 2 years now? A little bit.
Almost 3, like 2.5 years, yeah.
Yeah, and just really have such an awesome presence with the surf rock vibe in Fort Collins, super, super unique. So yeah, just kind of curious about the story of you all forming and creating this band.
Yeah, so I can start. So I met Rich, who used to play guitar with us, and he and I got together, and we were, the idea was just to create a straight surf rock group. And then he found Josh and Kevin, who used to jam at their place in a garage.
Yep.
And he was driving from a party to get more beer.
Just walking.
He was just walking.
As one does.
The homeboy was just on foot.
As he does. And he heard them playing and came in and started playing guitar and was like, we should play music together. And then brought Jacob in, and it just kind of has grown from there. This orientation has been consistent for the last, year or so?
Yeah, and we've gone from like the 4-piece to a 7-piece to now this being like the more contained and fluid while also having a bunch of different elements.
So poor Kenzie's sick today, so she's minimally speaking to save her voice. But when did Ken's come into the picture here for the band?
When did?
One of those things of like, hey, my girlfriend can sing.
Yeah. On the first show, I think we did a cover.
We did a cover of Valerie in the show.
Was it the very first show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that was it. And I was just really nervous, sitting there freezing at the Colorado room, what am I gonna go on? Shaking, drinking a bunch of whiskey, and then I was like, okay, it's over. I forgot the words. It was great. Good first show.
Yeah, that's how the first show needs to be, But we've been moving way more in a put Kins in the spotlight kind of direction because she has an awesome voice, as you know.
Yeah. Amazing dance moves. We did a karaoke at Josh and Max's house recently, and Kenzie was busting some Lizzo and some dance moves, which was really impressive.
Thank you.
We were all very, very entertained. So that's why you're here. But so what was the sort of the impetus or the push behind starting original music within the band? What's inspiring to you all? How do you come up with your ideas to write songs? Kind of curious about that process.
I mean, we've been kind of doing that even with the improvising jams of just coming up with foundation of the ideas has just been an ongoing thing for the longest time, even when it was just the 4 of them. And so I think as a band too, you kind of get to the point where when stuff's sounding good, you're like, let's start writing our own songs. Or they just kind of come up and then you have these ideas that have just been floating around for a while. Or if somebody's got a really good idea, they bring it in and then all of a sudden everybody starts making it the group characteristics. Especially Castles, you brought that in, it literally sounded like one thing and then the whole structure gets put in format, but the flavors get turned into everybody's influence on it. So I think it's just an organic part of being in a group.
I think a lot of our writing and group writing is deletion of ideas because we all have a ton of ideas. And so I think one of our first group written songs turned into a 15-minute epic with 20 parts, which was great because it ended every set. It was
that's a catchy.
I think when we first started writing songs, we recorded everything that we played, and if we had a really good set of ideas, a really good piece of a jam, that turned into like an A section of a song or a B section of a song, and we would literally go back to that recording and just listen to it and like tweak it a little bit, but sometimes it was just exactly how we had improvised it. So that was really, really cool. I remember some pieces I'm like, what did I play? And listen to it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the best part. It sounds the best, so that was really cool.
So kind of like solidifies over time.
Mm-hmm.
I just have this vision, when you're talking when you're all sharing about your process, it's like sort of these pieces coming together, these like molecules coming together and then forming this cohesive object or,
Oh, yeah.
and then that's the final result, and then some things sort of get sloughed away or.
Well, a big piece of that too is like the recordings. Like you do such magic with simple, like just having that recorder. It blows my mind literally because we'll have like a whole plethora, and Kevin will just have like a library of practices and performances, and you can go back and like log all these different pieces that you played, and like because when you do stuff in the moment, especially when it's like improvised, you do stuff and it gets really deep, and then you finish the night, and then you go home and you wake up the next day. But then when you have like those recordings and you can go back to them, you're like, damn, I didn't hear like Josh do that, or like you hear somebody doing riffs, or even yourself, and you're like, I didn't realize I was doing that, or and you catch on, and then I don't know. That's just a huge part because I even like listened a bunch of Rich when he was playing a good bit, and you just having those logged in, I could like get the deeper instances of like what Rich was doing in jams and what worked and what didn't, and how to work with space, and that definitely taught me like how to play with you guys for sure.
Yeah, having that log makes it, you can find out really quick what works and what doesn't.
So when you say a log, can you say a little bit more about what that looks like?
Google Drive
Documents
that we all share.
Sharing
Yeah.
recordings from like practices.
And it can just be like Zoom document, and it's like 2.5 hours long or something, and it's the whole show.
And I've listened to like literally the next day we'll just listen to a 2.5 hour show.
Yeah.
Just re-listen and think what worked, what didn't.
Yeah, but there's like a lot of
Take
stuff on the
snippets.
SoundCloud that's just like a piece of the show that's just that one recording, and you go in and edit it, and it just comes out so nice. It
Yeah.
sounds like we've just had stuff all, I don't know.
So you all put a lot of work into the music that you create, sounds like.
Well, because we like it too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's cool to listen to it afterwards because you're like, damn, yeah, this
Well, I
sounds
think
good.
people see a band and they, see people performing and they think it's just like this sort of like, oh, you write a song, boom, you go up on stage, you play it. But there's like the attention to detail in the process, a lot of the times isn't acknowledged, and what it took to get to that point,
I think we're very thoughtful about the kinds of, or try to be very thoughtful about how our songs are structured, sometimes to a fault. But I think we end up with songs and with things that go places that we really like. So it's definitely there's a lot of different types of musical influences in the group, and different ears will hear different things. So you kind of put that all together and you come up with something unexpected.
Yeah, some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And this might sound like a weird question, kind of broad brush, but what would you say are your values or your heart as a band? How would you describe ultimately those underlying core parts of yourselves or the project?
I mean, I can answer again, but I feel like, Kinsey, what do you think?
Oh, the core heart value of the band?
Yeah.
Sorry. I think, I don't know, it just is fun to make things with people.
It's a collaboration.
That really is the core.
Collaboration,
We also like
yeah.
really just love playing with each other too.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, is like coming in, and the loose element of just like everybody having their own influences and coming in, but key element, open ears.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
you come in and like you gotta just kind of, if you're not, then you just find that you sit in a jam or a song a little bit differently, and then you wonder why, and you're like, well, I'm not listening to like what somebody else is doing. And we've talked about that. We're like, you can only really, at least people's brains are different, but I find I can only listen to like one or two at the same time. So then you gotta kind of pick. So then you actually find yourself like spending time just honing in on Josh's drums. Or I'll be like really trying to listen to Kevin, and then also find like where he pushes stuff and try to follow him in that way. So open ears is a huge one.
Improvising actually, I think teaches a lot about how just to be in a band, really. Because you practice listening, and then that becomes a skill for songwriting later on. So you know.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations as a group lately about what level of our set. Hey, how's it going? About like how much of our set is going to be improvised, because there's this, especially as you start to target larger stages, there's a feeling that you need to have just a set. We'll play these 8 songs and we'll do them, and we'll know exactly what it's going to be. But I really appreciate the group, because that has been kind of my instinct. But I appreciate the group has kicked back on that and said, no, we need to keep this element of there being uncertainty for us, and we get into these really awesome moments. I think our best parts of a set will be about 3/4 of the way in, when we're in a jam going into the last song, and we have gone completely off the rails. We know that we're going to get back to this key at some point, but we're not really sure how, and it's tough to script those kind of moments.
Well, and patience is a huge bit of that, right? Because you can jump the gun and then confuse everybody else, because like you'll have 3 out of the 4 members playing or something who will be super committed, and then one will start pulling away or something, and you're like, what? So it's like that commitment, and also like the patience of like breathing in something, energetically breathing, of just like, I'm gonna sit here for a bit, and like if I'm not playing, I'm gonna listen and see what's going on and see where I come in.
Yeah.
I feel like being a counselor, I'm like thinking of what you're saying in relationship terms.
Yeah.
All of these are great skills for a relationship too. Communicate, listen, right? Be patient.
Being in a band is being in like a relationship with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Somebody do something, you're like, what'd you say? What was that?
Yeah, it seems like a beautiful thing that y'all are creating.
Yeah, the core tenet that I think is kind of what we're getting at is just communication, both on stage and off stage. And it's something that Kevin has talked about to me, and we've talked about a lot, is just we're able to both communicate on stage with our instruments, but also just verbally. So there was a point where I wasn't feeling creatively like expressed in the group, and it's hard as a drummer, right? I don't have chord structures. I don't know music theory well enough to like contribute, and lyrics aren't my strong suit, and so it's hard to sometimes express myself. And I let them know, and they're like, well, what can we do to help change that? And that coming to them with that communication and then having it being received really well is really amazing. And that's kind of been that way since the start, and it's developed a lot of trust both on stage and off stage, and it's just like, if you can trust each other, then you can kind of do anything you want. It seems like it's really cool.
Sounds like that was super meaningful.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think that point is kind of where we pivoted a little bit from doing like a surf rock heavy group, because Josh was just like, yo, I don't like surf rock drums.
I'm sorry. I'm on ride, going 100 miles an hour, all the time.
He's like, I listen to jazz and neo soul. Can we do that stuff?
And there's I think the like vibe of openness that you're talking about is like, making it a true collaboration versus kind of pulling everyone in one direction. It's like sort of held on all sides. So just curious to hear a little bit about the song you're going to play here in a moment for us, and if you want to talk a little bit about that.
So I think the original idea was from Jacob. It was me. That was a while ago.
Yeah, and it was like vaguely in the key, and I remember I just like came up with just kind of like a funkier riff that matches kind of with like the rhythm. But as far as the riffage and the melodies, definitely not anything similar.
Yeah.
But Bad Friday Night came from like a joke, because I was in high school and like my favorite band I ever played in was just a good group of buddies. But one of them could just like improvise lyrics off the bat. So we would just be playing, and he's like, give me a topic to sing about. And we'd say something like hamburgers and cocaine or something like that. And you're like, that sounds like a bad Friday
together.
night. No, exactly. But you said like, that sounds like a bad Friday night. So then the name just like stuck of like, this idea is going to be called that.
It was instrumental for a long time, and we had a completely different B section and C section, and then we walked away from it for about 3 months, maybe longer.
Yeah, I feel like it was a long time.
But your lyrics when they came in, that pretty much like solidified the melody and like where it went. Because I mean, even the guitar stuff that I do is like based off of what she was singing. Because I just kind of came in, you started singing, and I was like,
Yeah, because we just like you just started jamming the chord progression, and we were trying to figure out a melody for just a vocal part, and I had written these lyrics like a couple nights previous, and I was like, well, I'll try them out, see how they fit, and then we just worked with it, and
Yeah, it was interesting. We took those lyrics and put them out of order because you were doing a melody, and I looked through it and I'm like, this seems like this is the chorus. And it's like an interesting group thing.
It's a good example.
Leftover
It's a good example of us writing as a group. Some of our new songs, like Castles, for instance, was primarily something I wrote and brought to the group. But there are certain parts that belong to maybe Jacob or Ken's, but as a whole, I think we wrote it as a group, and I think that's really awesome because it's not necessarily like an easy thing to do. Write songs as a group
And it
live.
can be easy to get like attached to one concept and then not want to deviate from that, but it sounds like there's an openness again to being able to.
The hell with
and then
bad Friday.
Josh was like drum beat in that song. He like tried a whole bunch of different stuff,
my
and then
God.
it was
You
just
We're
like
jams.
that one. It was just like, oh yes, that sounds so cool. Like I remember the first recording we have of it. I was like, yeah, that like makes me love the song. You know.
That's still how we write a lot, is jamming. We'll be like, I don't know what to do on this part, and we'll just, jam the A section out until we are satisfied with what we're doing.
Well, we can't wait to hear it. And just before we wrap up here and listen to this, Good Friday Night. So it's called?
Bad Friday.
Bad Friday Night.
It's just Bad
I just
Friday.
had hamburgers and cocaine in my head.
Sounds like a great Friday.
It was probably something worse than that. I
We
just
don't
said.
endorse drugs or these.
I don't endorse hamburgers.
We only endorse local beer.
Cocaine. It's brought to you by cocaine.
But anyhow, what do y'all have? What do y'all have on the horizon that you want to let us know about on the show here?
On March 15th, we're going to be playing at the Aggie Theater, which is going to be awesome. Part of the Sound and Light series.
Aggie.
Yeah. So
What was that?
So that's going to be great. Hoping we can get this edited and in the world in time. And then after that, are we doing the March 27th? Is that committed?
At Pinball Jones.
Yeah,
2, Campus West.
March 27th
With
at
the
Pinball
tight.
Jones.
Pinball Jones 2.
Yeah.
I was
Pinball Jones Campus West with the tight brothers.
PPJ, CC.
Do you have any
Ashton said.
albums or recordings coming out anytime soon?
Good question.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
At this rate.
It's a process.
Yeah, so it's a process. It's a process. We have constantly pending studio time, and
Do you mind sharing the obstacles to that? Just because I think that's helpful for people to know.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of it. So we had studio time scheduled, and we're ready to go in, and then Maxwell Treader, who's an amazing guitarist, who's playing right now, right at Envy.
Envy Brewing.
Yeah. Actually, they reached out to us for that, and then I passed it on to Max. So I'm
Oh,
glad
cool.
to see that
Awesome.
he-
Yeah, community.
that it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because we're here right now. So he sat down and started asking these really amazing questions about how we were going to be approaching the recording process and our songs, and we started talking and realizing that although we could go in at that point, if we wanted to really think about and internalize some of these questions he was bringing up, then we could create something really amazing. And so it was a back to the drawing board moment.
Yeah, it was a really important input.
Yeah.
Sounds like you were
So-
listening to something with it amongst yourselves around that. To go back to your theme from earlier.
Yeah. It was and I was ready to go to just plow through, but that's why I really again appreciate the group input
Okay.
and the open communication, because it's like, if we want to make this good,
Yeah.
we should just delay it and do it when we're ready.
And that's the patience too, right? Which is, again, something that behind the scenes people don't often know about music, or the process that a lot of thought and intention goes into creating an album or like a work of art, really. So I appreciate you sharing about that. And yeah, and can't wait to hear it when it comes out. So
It's gonna be awesome.
is Bad Friday Night going to be on it?
For sure.
Awesome, cool. Okay, well, let's hear the song. Thank you so much, Cactus Cat, for doing.
Thank you,
Thank
Chelsea.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Josh.
You like that?
The best one.